Hello, and welcome back to Boring History for Sleep. Tonight we bring you the strange tale of Europe's most unusual delicacy, mummy dust. Imagine you are strolling through a bustling medieval market, the air filled with the aroma of spices and old books. You pass by an apothecary, its shelves filled with jars of dried plants and mysterious elixirs. Inside, a wizened old man is grinding something in a mortar and pestle. He looks up and smiles. "Would you like to try some mummy?" he asks. Startled, you politely decline, but the old man insists. He claims that mummy powder can cure any ailment from baldness to paralysis. Intrigued, you take a small dose, and as the taste of ancient Egypt fills your mouth, you wonder about the origins of this bizarre treat. As the centuries passed, the demand for mummy powder grew, leading to a gruesome trade. European merchants and explorers would visit Egypt, where they would plunder ancient tombs, gathering the remains of pharaohs and other notable figures. These remains were then ground into a fine powder and shipped back to Europe, where they were sold to apothecaries and physicians. The powder was believed to have healing properties and was used to treat a variety of ailments. But the truth is, no one really knows why people started consuming mummy dust in the first place. Now, as your eyelids grow heavy and your breathing slows, allow yourself to drift away to sleep, knowing that tomorrow you will wake up feeling refreshed and renewed, thanks to your nightly dose of mummy dust. 16th century, imagine yourself walking down a narrow, winding street in a quiet European city. Perhaps it is Bruges, with its canals choked with barges and houses crowding the banks, or Venice, where merchants from across the Mediterranean unloaded their ships and hawked their wares in the Piazza San Polo. Maybe it's even Paris, the city of light, with cobblestone streets echoing the tread of pilgrims on their way to the shrine of St. James at Compostela. The very air hums with the songs of street vendors and the shouts of children chasing stray dogs down narrow lanes. But now the sun climbs higher, painting the sky with the soft colors of dawn. We pass by a house with peeling paint and a rusting shutter hanging by one hinge. Our destination is the home of the apothecary, a skilled tradesman whose knowledge of plants, minerals, and creatures makes him a vital part of this community. His shop is easy to spot among the jumble of buildings lining the street. Above the door, a painted shield depicts a gnarled branch bearing 3 leaves, each marked with a red cross. This is his sign, denoting his skills and warning customers that the remedies sold within may be harsh but are always powerful. As you knock, the sound of grinding mortar and pestle abruptly stops. The smell of lavender and myrrh drifts out as the door opens, revealing a cluttered yet ordered space. Sunlight streams through dusty windows onto flagstones worn smooth by countless footsteps. Behind the counter, rows of glass jars and ceramic pots are filled with an array of ingredients, both mundane and strange. Some are familiar: dried lavender buds, bundles of chopped rosemary, and boxes of salve. Others less so: candied toad, powdered unicorn horn, and a jar holding a desiccated newt staring sightlessly upward with bulging eyes. Most intriguing, however, is the shelf reserved for the apothecary's most prized stock: bottles of potent elixirs. Aqua Tofana they are known, named for their inventor, a Roman peasant girl. Legend says she concocted these foul-tasting mixtures to poison her abusive husband and was so successful that copies of her deadly recipe spread throughout Europe. Now, centuries later, you can purchase her poisonous concoctions right here. The apothecary himself is a man in his late 40s, his face lined with wrinkles etched by years of close study and worry. His robes are dusted with flour and his sleeves are stained with the remnants of many experiments. He greets you with a smile, his eyes twinkling behind wire-rimmed spectacles. While he does not speak much, he offers you a warm smile and a gesture of welcome. His assistant, a young man with bright eyes and nimble fingers, prepares to help you further. Your first customer is an anxious mother clutching a babe swaddled in velvet. Her child is listless and feverish. After brief questioning, the apothecary reaches for a vial of syrup and hands it to her. It's made of dried fennel seeds, sugar, and vinegar, he explains. Give your son to teaspoons every 2 hours, and he will soon be well again. Next, a burly knight enters, wincing as he walks. The apothecary immediately knows what is wrong. A charnel wound. From jousting, no doubt. He dips a finger in a nearby jar of ointment and dabs the knight's hurt. This soothing balm made of beeswax and crushed rose petals will stop the bleeding, he says, handing the knight a sealed bandage to cover the cut. Finally, a wizened old woman hobbles up to the counter. She has come for her weekly dose of laudanum, a tincture of opium. The apothecary measures out a small amount in a bone china cup. Be careful, he warns her. Too much and you will drift off to sleep forever. As the morning wears on, more customers arrive. A silver-tongued priest seeks a tonic for indigestion brought on by too much feasting. Holy Week, a timid young girl needs something to ease her aching heart after a disagreement with her beloved. An older gentleman looking for a little extra in the bedroom asks for a draught containing powdered rhino horn, which is supposed to increase potency. And lastly, an artist comes in search of vivid pigments for his latest masterpiece. He picks up jars of ultramarine blue, made from ground lapis lazuli, so precious that it is used to color the robes of the Virgin Mary in altarpiece paintings. An emerald green, produced by grinding copper into a fine powder. Each interaction allows you to observe the delicate balance of power between the apothecary and his patrons. Their trust in his knowledge is evident, but it is also clear that he values their custom and takes their concerns to heart. As the day progresses, we can see how the space of the shop changes. What began as an organized yet cluttered area slowly becomes messy and disordered. Mortar and pestle rest, abandoned on the counter. Ingredients spill from overturned jars, and a ladder leans precariously against the counter. By the end of the day, the once pristine space is a testament to the frenetic energy of trade. During the afternoon, a delivery arrives. The local farmer has brought fresh batches of dried flowers, roots, and leaves picked that very morning. Rosemary, lavender, sage, thyme, dandelion, and stinging nettle. All are sorted and weighed before being stored in the cool, dark cellar below the shop. There, barrels of pickled onions and garlic wait alongside sacks of dried herbs. In the dim lamplight, you can see piles of dried animals, too, lizards, snakes, bats, and even the occasional bird. Once everything is accounted for, the delivery man leaves, and the apothecary begins preparing his most requested product. A simple but effective remedy for colds, coughs, and sore throats. With practiced hands, he combines brandy, honey, lemon peel, and crushed peppercorns in a large bowl. Next, he reaches for a large book bound in leather. Holding it like a priest might hold a holy text, he consults its yellowed pages, muttering under his breath. Measuring ingredients for his various potions and tinctures is no easy task. The recipes are complex, requiring specific amounts of plant parts, animal products, and minerals. Everything must be exact. One wrong measurement in a potion could be ruined. At midday, the bell tower nearby chimes 12 times. It is time for the apothecary to take his break. He sits down to a simple meal of bread, cheese, and wine, taking care to avoid staining his white linen cloth. Meanwhile, his apprentice cleans the scales and measures out small piles of powder onto pieces of parchment. They are ready to be mixed into pills. The sounds of the city fade away as you watch this young man roll up his sleeves and get to work. As the afternoon light fades, a local friar enters the shop. He has heard rumors of the mysterious elixirs kept here and wants to know more. The apothecary doesn't hesitate. He pours a clear liquid into a silver goblet. "Would you like to try some wine?" he asks, smiling. The friar accepts and drinks deeply. His eyes widen in surprise. "This tastes just like wine," he exclaims. "In fact, it is better than wine. The difference is that it contains a small amount of opium, which gives it a pleasant numbing sensation." The friar looks thoughtful as he sets the goblet down. Perhaps there is more to this trade than meets the eye. As evening descends, the shop takes on a different atmosphere. Shadows stretch across the floor, and the flickering candlelight paints dancing shapes on the walls. The constant stream of customers is slowed to a trickle, and the apothecary is preparing to close for the night. One last customer arrives, a young man seeking a gift for his beloved. He asks for something special, something to make her eyes sparkle. The apothecary thinks for a moment. Then he reaches for a small jar filled with glittering sand. "It is said that touching this sand brings good luck," he says, handing it to the young man. "Take it to her and watch her face light up when she sees it." And with that, the shop falls silent. The apothecary extinguishes the candles, leaving the young man in darkness. Only the faint glow of the street lamps outside can be seen through the window. The air is thick with the smell of spices and old wood. The silence is comfortable, not awkward. The apothecary and his apprentice exchange a tired smile. Another day done, another day closer to the sun. For them, the day's work is done. But for us, they're curious observers. The mystery of the apothecary shop and its wares will continue to fascinate. Who knows what wonders might be found within those jars and vials? What secrets lie dormant in the darkened cellar? And what stories do the customers bring with them when they cross the threshold? All these questions and more linger in the air, tantalizing us with the magic of a bygone era. This work is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 international license. It is August 1536, and you are walking through the streets of Basel, Switzerland. The air is thick with the smell of fresh bread, river water, and woods. You hear the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer and the murmur of people going about their day. But there is a different sound that reaches your ears, too, a sharp, staccato rhythm that seems out of place in this peaceful scene. It is the sound of a hammer striking chisel against stone. You follow the noise and come upon a corner where two men are working on a large slab of granite. They are masons hired by the wealthy citizen Philip von Munsingen to complete the monument that will mark his grave when he dies. The men carve intricate designs into the stone, and as they work you notice something strange. Inscribed along the side of the slab is a name and date. Anno Domini 1487 it reads, Philippus von Munsingen, citizen of died on June. It is signed by the stonemason Hans Friele, master of St. John's Guild. As you read the inscription, you imagine the man it describes, Philip von Munsingen, walking these very streets, breathing the same air that you breathe. You think of him at home in his fine house, eating roasted meats and sweet fruits. drinking wine with friends and family, laughing, talking, living his life. But then you remember that he is dead, that this stone will be his final resting place, holding his body in the dark earth beneath the cobblestones. And suddenly the bustling market around you fades away and all you can see is that grave slab, cold and hard and final. In 1536, death was a part of daily life in Basel as it was everywhere in Europe. People died from disease, famine, fire, war, childbirth, and old age. Every family knew the pain of losing someone, and every family would eventually lose someone. And because death was so common, the living had to coexist with the dead. The dead were present in the air they breathed, the water they drank, the food they ate, even the wine they sipped during Mass. The bones of the dead were ground into dust and mixed with mortar to build their houses. Their ashes were buried beneath their streets. Even their skin became part of the landscape, stretched across the frames of boats. For centuries, Europeans had been consuming the dead. But in the 16th century, a new attitude towards death began to emerge. Fear turned to fascination, and the dead became something more than a fact of life. They became an object of study, a subject of art, a spectacle to be seen. And nowhere was this fascination with death more evident than in the bazaars and apothecaries of Basel and other major European cities. There, among the dried plants, animal parts, and exotic imports, sat a special collection of goods, a strange assortment of items gathered from faraway lands, things like mummies, skeletons, skulls, and bodies. These macabre wares were displayed not just for show, but for sale, bought and sold like any other commodity. At the heart of this macabre marketplace was a single item, an ancient Egyptian mummy. The mummy trade began in the 15th century, when European explorers arrived in Egypt and discovered the vast cemeteries of the Nile Delta. The explorers were astonished by what they saw, by the strange rituals and customs of the Egyptians, by their beliefs about the afterlife, and by the mummified remains that lay scattered across the desert sand. The Europeans began to collect these mummies, bringing them back to their home countries where they were displayed in museums, universities, and private collections. Soon, however, the explorers realized that they could make more money by selling the mummies than by simply showing them off. So they began to dig up entire tombs, stripping the mummies of their wrappings and selling them piece by piece. And it wasn't just the mummies that were in demand. The Europeans also wanted the sarcophagi, the coffins that held the mummies. The sarcophagi were made of stone or wood and decorated with intricate carvings and paintings. The Europeans chopped them up and sold them as building materials or firewood. The most valuable pieces were sent back to Europe where they were sold to private collectors or used to build new tombs. The trade in mummies reached its peak in the 17th century when entire workshops were set up in Egypt to produce fake mummies. These fake mummies were made by wrapping up the bodies of animals or criminals and then painting them to look like real mummies. The Europeans were eager to buy these fake mummies because they were cheaper than real ones, and just as good for making money. The fake mummy trade continued until the 18th century when the British government banned the export of mummies from Egypt. By that time, however, the damage had already been done. The Egyptians had lost thousands of their most important historical artifacts. European attitudes towards death had changed forever. The modern obsession with death began in the 16th century, when the printing press made it possible to spread new ideas about death and dying. The first person to take advantage of this new technology was the German monk Martin Luther, who used the printing press to publish his ideas about salvation by faith alone. This was a radical idea at the time, and it caused a split in the Christian church. The followers of Luther became known as Protestants, and they quickly spread his ideas throughout Europe. Another person who took advantage of the printing press was the Swiss polymath, who used it to publish his ideas about medicine and alchemy. Paracelsus was a controversial figure, but his ideas helped to pave the way for modern medicine. The printing press also helped to spread the ideas of the French philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who argued that humans were inherently good but corrupted by society. Rousseau's ideas had a profound influence on the French Revolution and the rise of modern democracy. The printing press was invented by Johannes Gutenberg in the mid-15th century. Gutenberg was a German blacksmith and goldsmith who was interested in ways to improve people's lives. He realized that there had to be a faster way to print books and other documents, and so he set about inventing a machine that could do the job quickly and accurately. Gutenberg's printing press used movable type, which allowed him to assemble text and images quickly and easily. He also developed a system for casting individual letters in metal, which made it possible to print large numbers of books cheaply and efficiently. Gutenberg's printing press had a profound impact on European society. It made it possible to spread new ideas and information quickly, and this led to the Renaissance, the Reformation, the Scientific Revolution, and the Enlightenment. The printing press also helped to create a mass market for books, which led to the development of libraries and schools. As the 16th century wore on, the topic of death grew more popular among artists and intellectuals. Writers like Hamlet and Romeo and Juliet explored the darker aspects of human existence. Artists like Hieronymus Bosch and Peter Bruegel the Elder created haunting images of the afterlife. Musicians like Johann Sebastian Bach composed deeply moving works about death and suffering. Scientists like Andreas Vesalius and William Harvey made groundbreaking discoveries about the human body and its processes, including the circulation of blood. Theologians like John Calvin and Martin Luther King the Younger challenged the status quo and called for a more humane and compassionate world. Philosophers like Niccolò Machiavelli and Thomas Hobbes grappled with the meaning of life and the nature of humanity. An alchemist like Paracelsus sought to unlock the secrets of the universe and discover the cure for all diseases. All of these people were driven by a fascination with death and a desire to understand the mysteries of human existence. They pushed the boundaries of knowledge and creativity and helped to shape the course of human history. Now we return to our story. The mummy trade continued throughout the 16th century. Despite the growing awareness of the cultural significance of the objects being traded, the Egyptians began to fight back against the looting of their tombs, but their efforts were largely unsuccessful. By the 17th century, the trade had expanded to include other cultures as well, such as the Greeks, Romans, and indigenous peoples of the Americas. However, the Egyptian government eventually cracked down on the illegal excavations and imposed strict penalties on those involved in the trade. This, combined with the increasing popularity of natural history museums, led to a decline in the mummy trade. Despite the end of the trade, mummies remain a popular tourist attraction in Egypt today. Visitors to the country can see some of the best preserved examples of these ancient remains, which continue to fascinate and mystify us centuries after they were created. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel for more historical tales. We'd love to have you join our community. And now, dear listener, as the echoes of courtly banquets fade and the shadows lengthen in palace halls, we invite you to step out of the candlelit chambers and return to the daylight of the present. We hope you've enjoyed journeying back in time to a world where powdered mummies were more than just a macabre curiosity, but an accepted part of daily life. Perhaps you found yourself sipping spiced wine, feeling the faint bitterness of mummy mingled with its rumored restorative powers. Or maybe you witnessed the casual exchange of mummy powder at a grand banquet, a mere condiment among Now, as we bring this tale to a close, we encourage you to pause and reflect. Think about the rituals and routines that make up your own life. Consider the small comforts that you rely on each day, those everyday luxuries that you may take for granted. Perhaps it's a cup of tea in the morning, the feel of sunlight on your skin, or the sound of laughter shared with friends. These moments, big and small, weave the tapestry of our lives. They ground us in the present and remind us of the beauty of the everyday. As we emerge from the dimly lit chambers of the past, we want you to carry with you a newfound appreciation for the ordinary magic of life in our time. Remember the simple joys that make up your days and find comfort in the normalcy of your own existence. While tallies of mummified men as tonics may seem strange today, they offer us a lens to examine our own culture and its practices. It's a reminder that what is considered normal shifts with time and place. If you've enjoyed this journey through time, we'd invite you to join us again soon for another captivating tale. We have more stories waiting to be told. More journeys into the past that will leave you pondering the complexities of history and human nature. Until then, keep an eye on the world around you. Find wonder in the everyday and never stop asking questions. And should you find yourself passing a curious shop with dusty shelves and an old apothecary's jar, remember the whispers of bygone eras may linger just beyond our perception. The world is full of stories waiting to be uncovered. All you need is a curious mind and a thirst for adventure. Thank you for joining us today. We eagerly anticipate sharing more historical tales with you soon. Until then, keep an eye on the world around you. Find wonder in the everyday and never stop asking questions. The world is full of stories waiting to be uncovered. Gentler, so gentle. Let us leave behind the cobblestone streets of the medieval world. Let us leave behind the apothecary shop with its shelves of dried herbs and its jars of mummy powder. Let us leave behind the Renaissance physicians with their bleeding needles and their prescriptions for ground-up dinosaur bone. And let us leave behind the dusty tombs of Egypt, those silent witnesses to a time long gone. Here you are now in your cozy bed. It's strange to think that just a few centuries ago, people would consume mummy powder to help with everything from headaches to hangovers. Back then, they believed that ingesting these ancient remains would somehow help them tap into the secrets of immortality. How crazy is that? Now, close your eyes and imagine the tomb paintings, the apothecaries grinding up powders, the physicians mixing up their prescriptions, and then imagine yourself back in your cozy bed. It's so warm and inviting. Just a few more breaths and you'll be fast asleep. I know it sounds crazy, but I promise you, you're safe here in your bed. Now, drift off to sleep. Good night.